In the last episode, we did our first crewed landing on the moon, and this time we're going to do a similar contract on Minmus, so we want to do a crewed mission to Minmus. The reason I'm doing the intro here, looking at our low Kerbin orbit space station, is I think we're going to use this for our mission to Minmus. So when I placed the station up here, it wasn't really intended to be a permanent Kerbin station. When I do a permanent Kerbin station, it's going to be something larger and more modular, so I can put parts on and off. This is just kind of a proof of concept for building a space station and keeping our first Kerbal in orbit for 30 days. It has fulfilled that purpose, so now I don't really have any need for it here at Kerbin anymore. But I'm thinking we can take this basically Pioneer station and clip a tug onto it on the front docking port here and push it out to Minmus. If we do that, see, we have this new orbital station contract around Minmus. This same station will fulfill that contract, assuming we have 2 pilots on board. So we just need to get this thing to Minmus to fulfill that contract. Let's head back to the Space Center and look at other contracts available right now. So active contracts, we've got that one we were just looking at, build a new orbital station around Minmus. Gather surface deployed mystery goo observations from Moon, we're working on that right now. Repair a satellite in orbit of the Moon, that's the one we couldn't do on the last mission because our engineer wasn't trained high enough. Bring green sandstone back with you, so that's going to be done on a landing on Minmus. Lowlands or greater flats specifically, apparently. Explore Minmus crewed, that's just the standard land and return home safely. Surface deployed goo observations from the surface of Minmus, so that is similar to the one we started on the moon. We need to deploy those things. However, I don't think we're going to do that on this mission because we need to take 2 pilots to fulfill this contract. And we want an engineer at least to deploy the solar panel so we don't have to bring so many solar panels. So maybe we'll save that one for a future mission. And we've got Orbit the Sun, which is just shoot something out of Kerbin SOI. What else is available that might synergize with us going to Minmus? Ooh, surface outpost on the moon. That's kind of neat. Science data from space around Minmus definitely synergizes there. Okay, I think that's it for contracts. Let's take a look at the research and development. We have unlocked this node, which gives us small radial engines. I just think those will be interesting, more interesting to design with. Let's see, we could take... Where is it going to be? Here, to get the 2.5 meter fairings, that would be useful. We definitely are going to want heavier lifter engines sooner or later, but I don't think we need them for this mission. You know what, let's just take what we've got here. So the only thing we've unlocked is the propulsion systems node for small radial engines. Let's see what we can build now. Okay, here's what I've put together. So I just pulled up the save version that we had of the Kerbin station, and I've started adding things to it to help us complete this mission. So let's take a look at what I've added. First of all, this little probe with the ScanSat part so we can produce maps of Minmus, biome maps. That's not technically part of the contract, but it'll help us pick landing sites, just as it's done so on the moon. Over here, I've got a very similar probe to that one. Almost identical, really, except instead of the ScanSat part on top, it's got a magnetometer. This probe's purpose is to fulfill this contract, Orbit the Sun. So this one is going to declip and head out to orbit the Sun. This is my Minmus lander. And it has 1 Science Junior on board, which I did rescale slightly down and then add these things to it because I just think it looks better, to be honest. No real reason. And then down here, this is going to be my crewed return vessel to get my Kerbal safely home after their mission is complete. And for all of that, I've got this big tug with a cluster of Terrier engines. This decoupler is only in here for like testing purposes, to make sure it's calculating my delta V right. But when I do that, and I switch this to vacuum, I've got almost 1600 delta V in this tug pushing all of this stuff. So that should be enough to get us into Minmus orbit, wherever we want to be. It is cool that I ended up using these 3 docking ports that I put on this arm on the front of the space station, because I initially just put those on because they looked just to be something interesting to look at here, but we're going to use all 3 of them. So, obviously we don't need to launch the station again, we just need to launch all of these parts. So what I'm going to do now is get rid of the station and package these parts to the tug, and then we'll need to put that on a launch vehicle to get it into orbit. Okay, well, it's a little silly looking, but here we go. So, I did go back and unlock that node that gives us 2.5 meter fairings. It also gave us some, like, space station parts, I think it was, but we're not using any of that right now, but they are available now. So, inside this fairing, we've got, you know, a probe core, decoupler, and reaction wheel. But on top of that, we've got the tug, and I have mounted the Minmus lander and the 2 probes. We don't have the crew return vessel yet, because that'll go up in a separate launch, because we want that to go up attached to a launch escape system, so it's safe for the Kerbals inside. By the way, make sure there are no Kerbals on board this. And all of that we've got thrown on top of center stack, which is 2.5 meters with a skipper engine, and I think we're really pushing the capabilities of our lifter engines with this setup. But we've got 4 boosters using the Bobcat engines, and I think that's going to be enough to get us into orbit. We might even have a 200 or 300 Delta V left over once we get there. But let's take this guy out to the launch pad and see how it goes. Okay. Set as target, Kerbin Station 1.2. Now let's time warp. So we're launching from here, Kerbal Space Center. Let's time warp until the station is like right in here. Close enough. We're going to let the gravity turn mod fly the ascent this time. Destination height 80 kilometers, auto stage off, time warp on, launch. Oh, that's not right. Oh my gosh. Well, I see the problem. We're controlling from the wrong point. Well, that was exciting. I could, of course, revert and get rid of that, but you know what? Maybe we'll just live with it. It's an exciting crash we get to see. Back to Space Center. Okay, well that was a waste of 100,000 spaceos, which is what this craft costs. Not really that much in the grand scheme of things, considering we have 2.7 million right now. I could, of course, revert the launch and undo that, but we'll live with it. It's fine. However, let's go in and reroute. And we'll set that probe as root. Did that take? I think it did. Yeah, it did. Okay, now let's save that with a proper route. Face east, and let's try that again. That didn't fix our problem, because we're still facing down on the nav ball here. Yeah, I don't know why. Is that whole probe core mounted upside down? It might be. There we go. We'll use the upwards facing docking ports, because docking ports are always available as control from here points. Now we're facing the sky, so let's do that again. We should still be in the right spot to launch. Not quite, we're a little behind now, but we'll go for it. Gravity turn, target 80 kilometers, auto stage off, time warp on, launch. That looks a lot better. Okay, we'll monitor the fuel tanks because we need to stage those off when they run empty. You have 0 rated ignitions left, which means we probably didn't upgrade the engine quality on that, which means we probably also didn't do it in here, did we? Slightly concerning. I wish I had thought to do that. The craft looks a lot nicer without the boosters on it. It's still quite stubby. And okay, we are in a stable orbit. Let's take a look at our rendezvous options. So we are behind our target, which means we want to go faster than it to catch up, which means we want to be in a lower orbit. That's where we are now. So let's say we stay in a lower orbit all the way to, I'm just guessing, say out in here. And then do prograde here, so we'll still be in a lower orbit until we aim for a rendezvous out in here. Would that be reasonably close? By God, that's pretty close, gotta say. Okay, that's probably as close as we can get from that maneuver node. This is the same old thing that I've said before, is that doing normal and anti-normal burns here probably won't do anything to our orbit 180 degrees out. We want to do that sort of a burn here when we're 90 degrees out. So for now, 4.8 is as close as we're going to get. Nope, that's it. Engine malfunction. Okay, well, we're done with this bit now, whether we want to be or not. Let's get rid of the fairing. And we are now flying this thing. Now let's face the maneuver vector. Since we have detached and we were having problems with this, let's make sure we're controlling from where we think we are. There we go, 0.1 rendezvous. What was the speed? 36 meters per second is what we're going to need to make up to rendezvous. Okay, that's close. 0.2 meters per second drift. We just went into the dark, so I'm just gonna time warp into the light just so we can see what we're doing. Just to make the video visible. Okay. Target, where'd you go? Still out here somewhere. You gotta be somewhere. There you are. Let's face the target. We'll do a little puff to start heading over there. How many rated ignitions do these have? 20. Not a huge amount, but it should be enough. Your engines won't necessarily fail if you pass the rated ignitions or burn times. It just starts becoming a lot more likely. Okay, we're here. I'm gonna save in case anything funky happens. But our next step is to get these 3 parts clipped onto our space station where we want them. Let's start with the big one, I guess. I did, by the way, I put a probe core on here because I realized I was going to need to be able to do unmanned control of this thing just for this docking maneuver. Okay. Control from here. These, by the way, are monopropellant engines, so they don't have a rated burn time or ignitions. We can use them sort of infinitely, really. Oh, that was, I thought we were on target, but we weren't, were we? There we go. Turn RCS off, and we're clipped in. Unfortunately, the force of us docking has given us a relative velocity with this guy. I don't really want to ignite the engines just to cancel that out, so we won't. Next step is going to get these 2 probes clipped in. What the heck just happened? Oh, we just lost an engine. That's unfortunate. That's going to make things a bit more complicated, to be honest. We can use the RCS to dock, but with only one unbalanced engine, it's going to be a bit awkward when we have to fly this thing on its own. I'm sure we'll manage. Or if we don't, it's not exactly a big deal, to be honest. It's a small unmanned craft. It's not like we're risking losing Kerbals. But you can see, given that that's the second engine problem we've had in this episode, why I like to put redundant engines on my probes that do have Kerbals on board. Okay, you're clipped in. Let's deactivate that engine before we forget. Now we've got one more probe we want to get on board. Activate engine. Activate engine. Let's go over there. See, those were rated, they have 65 rated ignitions, and that one exploded on the second ignition. That was just very unlucky. There we go. Deactivate those engines. Now we've got one more docking procedure to make. When we bring our crew up, should we bring an engineer also, so that he can repair these parts? It might be a good idea. It's a little bit wonky of an approach there. Oh, we screwed it up right at the last second. It's okay. The magnets will pull us in. Okay, let's save what we've got here. What would it cost me to do a plane change right now as opposed to doing something later? In a higher orbit? What would a low orbit plane change cost me to get where I need to be? 230 meters per second. I think I can afford that. We've got 1800 in the tank right now. Let's go for it. Down to 9 rated ignitions on those. Okay, so this mission has just gained an extra step, basically. So we've got our crew pod ready to launch. And actually this is good because it's going to give me a test of this cruise pod in space, because right now it's telling me I don't have as much Delta V as I thought I did. But this first launch is not going to be the 2 pilots we need to complete the contract. It's going to be a pilot plus an engineer. Reason being, we're going to bring up a new engine to replace that one that was destroyed, and we're also going to bring up repair kits and see if we can, like, refresh those engines on the tug. I don't even know if that's a thing, to be honest. But we're going to find out. So what we want to do is we're going to time warp until our launch site is directly under the plane of that orbit. So what is our orbit that we're aiming for? 2 degrees. We want to go 2 degrees south. So let's bring up our gravity turn mod. Destination 80 kilometers, that's fine. Inclination, -2, 2 degrees south. Auto stage off, time warp 1, launch. Okay, we're trying to set up a rendezvous with a station that is almost on the exact opposite side of the planet as us. So I think what we want to do is we want to go into a higher orbit and slow down and let it catch up with us. Okay, if we do this burn, this will give us a 0.2 kilometer separation on the next orbit, 400 meter per second relative speed, so it is quite wasteful. We could get a much more efficient encounter, but this craft is fueled up so much that it doesn't really matter. Let's just do the quick one. You know, we could get rid of this stuff at this point. So let's open the fairing and decouple. That was our thrust towards target, apparently. By the way, yeah, we wanted to check how much delta V we had in this situation. It's about 400. I think that's a little light. So we may want to fuel this thing up a bit more for the actual mission. There we go. Bill, you're here because you have a job to do now. You can probably do this from there, actually. So where's the one with the broken engine? Right here, there's the missing engine. So, I gotta be honest, I've never really done this using the stock system. I've played with the mods that do this sort of thing before, but this will be, one of my first times doing this. So, do we need to access it from here? We've got this. And if we want to install it here, is this how that works? Do I just click it? Is that attached now, or is it just like sitting there? Nope, it's attached. Is it symmetrical? Not really, you know? Not really. Okay, let's see if we can make it slightly more symmetrical. We'd probably want to put it about there. Alright, and then other than that, let's see if you can do anything with those engines to replenish them. Inspect engine. How is this still working? You tell me, Bill, you're the engineer. Can I repair it in any way? Service engine. Fasten that loose screw. Inspect engine doesn't look used. Is this even turned on? So, let's take a look back from the perspective of this. Rated for 23 ignitions now, whereas those are rated for 9. Cool, he can fix it. So did it consume a repair kit? It didn't. I didn't even need to bring the repair kits. Well, that's cool. Everything is good here. Let's get you guys back to the surface. I was going to try to land you near Kerbal Space Center, but it's in the dark. And I'm kind of sick of being in the dark for now, so let's have you land in the light. SAS on, retrograde. We are orbit reference, not target reference. And let's make it happen. Whew, that was close, I will admit. Now, will this thing blow up the heat shield on landing like the Mark II pod did? Indeed it did. Where, yeah, heat shield crashed into terrain. Okay, recover vessel. Alright, I made a slight modification to our crew craft here. It now has 2 of these 20 monopropellant fuel tanks instead of 1. Otherwise, that's the same craft. Let's get our crew on board, which, remember, for contract purposes, we need to be 2 pilots. Face east and head to launch pad. I want to keep us in a very low orbit, so I'm going to cut gravity turn at 75 kilometers, because we want to catch up to our craft. What do you know, that was actually quite an easy dock. Okay. We're going to pump some fuel into here. Out of these. Now, you've got 300 meters per second remaining to deorbit yourself. I could have pumped some more out of there. Undock. Wow, you're out of fuel. Can we get a gravity assist to fling you out into solar orbit? That's kind of useless. Okay, let's say we were just going to do something right here. That'll do it. Right there. Okay, Kerbin escape in 17 days. Cost you 120 meters per second. You've got 250 despite being somewhat depleted already. So now we're going to use alarm clock. This stupid thing that insists on being annoying. Maneuver. Add alarm. So that's 5 days away. Okay, back to you. Now I think we can also get you en route, but let's check your fuel systems because apparently I didn't select that to not be drawn from, which is what we wanted. Okay, now let's undock our mapping probe. Extend all solar. Extend all antenna. Ignite your engines. Now let's see where we want to get you. We need you to be in a polar orbit. That looks pretty polar. So let's point your nose towards your maneuver vector. And we just need to do a very... Oh, hang on. Controlling from the wrong place. Everything is confused on these craft for some reason. Okay, let's point your nose at the maneuver vector. And slowly pull you in. Now, remind me, what's your preferred altitude? 20 to 250. Let's add a maneuver here. It'll be a retrograde burn to get you into an orbit with an apoapsis of 250 kilometers. Or just below, really. Let's do like 230. Okay, who's first? Switch to the vessel that is first. I'm not even sure which one that is. It's the solar probe. So we could go ahead and execute this now. And that'll give us a little more breathing room on the others. So let's start the engines. And all we need to do is burn until we have a Kerbin escape trajectory. And there it is. Enjoy your life, probe. I'll never see you again. Let's switch to who's next. And it is the station itself. So let's point the nose at the vector. Let's make sure we're doing this right, because something about this mission has our control points really confused. See, it was wrong. We could probably go ahead and execute this now, 1 minute early. It'll give us a little more breathing room on working with the final craft, which is up here. Okay, and let's switch to you real quick. This one we want to put the apoapsis to about 230. There we go, 225 is close enough. Build a new orbital station around Minmus. There we go, that contract is complete. Okay, so... why are we in a 5-degree inclination, by the way? Whatever. Let's aim for greater flats then for our first landing. So, Val, head over to the landing craft. Okay, Kerbals, time to do your jobs. We're aiming for this area, Greater Flats. That'll do. Oh, I didn't think about that. The antenna's going to clip through the solar panel. I wish I'd positioned those a little differently. Could have put the antenna up here or back there and not had that problem. Not actually a problem as far as the game's concerned. The game will just let it clip through. But I would have liked it if it didn't look that way. Estimated burn 52 seconds. Wow, how weak are these? 7 kilonewtons of thrust in this stage. That's pretty weak. Okay, let's start that burn. Kind of awkward landing, but here we are. Pick up green sandstone. Oh, you have the plant flag option now. I don't know why you didn't have it earlier. World's first, planted a flag on Minmus. That's all we need to do here though, right? We're ready to head back to the station. Wait until it's actually a little bit ahead here on Minmus. Okay, I'm going to save in case something goes funky. SAS on. So we can decouple and leave this lower bit here. Let's head eastwards. Let's take apoapsis up to about 15k, I think. In fact, it might even just go for a direct ascent. We'll stop when we get to 15k and see what it looks like. So if we were to just continue with basically a direct ascent, what would that do for us? Pretty close, actually. That's with us still behind it, so let's delay a little more. Point 0.2, whatever, I can live with 0.2. Okay. We're here. Can we just, like, automatically transfer data here? We can. Awesome. So now what we can do is we can refuel this craft out of the monopropellant reserves in here, which we originally thought would serve no purpose, but here we are using it. Cool. Okay, do we want to hit slopes Midlands, lesser flats. Let me look at that list again to make sure. Lowlands, Great Flats, Greater Flats. So any of these would be fine. Look at that. So I guess we've got Moon there being the small one below the sun, and Kerbin being the big one above. So we're going to try to hop this craft over and land on the slopes right over there. I'm actually in the slopes right now, so I don't have to go fully fully out on the terrifying cliff. I can get it right here on the ridge. Whoop. Oh, I didn't realize I was quite that low. I thought I was still like 20 feet in the air there. I guess I should have been reading my readout. Lost a solar panel. Okay, fine. So we weren't in the Midlands. When I planted that flag that said Midlands, that was actually slopes over there? Okay, let's take a flight back that way in that case. Yeah, that's slopes. Where the hell are the Midlands? There's the Midlands. Okay, now let's run our Midlands experiments. And you can do your science stuff and plant the flag here. Minmus Midlands. Jeb and Val were here. Now I'm going to have you actually head over. And can you edit the text on that other one? I don't actually even know. But if you can, I would like you to edit it to reflect that that is slopes and not Midlands. Read plaque. Can I edit the plaque? I cannot. Take down? Can you replant it? You can. Nice. Okay, let's get back up to the space station. We've got 200 meters per second of delta V to do that, which is very tight, I must admit. And we're going to head eastwards. Don't need that anymore. Maybe saving the weight of one broken solar panel will help us. Let's go for a really minimal stable orbit first, before we try to get up to the space station, just in case we don't have the delta V for it. Because yeah, we're down to 47 now. That's worrisome. Okay, 47 would be enough to get us back up to station orbit. Okay, if we spend 32 to get onto this trajectory, and then another 15 when we get there to synchronize, that's 47. That's everything we got. Let's go for it. 1.2 is as close as we can get. Relative speed 14.7, and we've got 15 in the tank, so we'll be able to neutralize that, and that's it. I guess maybe I didn't account for the fact that when we pick up surface samples, that weight is added to the pod. That plus the fact that we did that hop, actually 2 hops, ate into our delta V margins that I thought we had. There we go, that's all we've got. 0.02 units of monopropellant remaining. So, the craft can't move any further, obviously, but the Kerbals can get out and jetpack over there. Let's make sure we take all of the data and samples. And you know what we could do, actually? We could still rescue this craft by bringing the other little monoprop craft over and just fueling it up a little bit. Maybe we'll do that. Grab board. So this craft does have monoprop inside at the moment. Let's just confirm that before we detach here. Yes, it does. Okay. Undock. Let's just confirm that we managed to get that data over here. Yes, we did. See, it's all these samples. Well, some of those just came out of the spacecraft, or the station, but it's all those samples that made our craft heavier. They do actually have weight. Mystery goo, 1.3 kilograms. Surface sample, 25 kilograms. Now all we need to do to rescue this is to put a few units of monoprop in the tank so that it can have enough to go over and dock with the space station. Okay, now stick together, please. There you go. Very nice. Now, the monoprop we put in here, what's remaining, we can get back into here. Now let's undock and see how much delta V we have on this thing. 330. 330 is pretty low. Oh, 270. 270 is very low. Okay, then. Well, in that case, we're going to use our tug. Alrighty then. Kill these engines, because we're going to use the tug for the next thing. You can pop your antenna and solar panels out, though. See what a cute little craft it was? Too bad we had to use some of our monoprop so that we couldn't use it the way it was intended. Okay, going back to Kerbin. Burn should be roughly here. We did, by the way, put about 15 days worth of life support on this little guy, which is double what we should need, because it's 8 days to apoapsis, or to periapsis. See, there's one of our life support boxes there, and there's the oxygen container. It's a cool looking little craft. I think it's cool. What we're going to do here is turn retrograde, and we'll use this 500 meters per second left in the tug to slow us down some. No reason not to use it at this point. Okay, let's undock. And turn retrograde. Let's start our engines back up. Kind of forgot we would need to do that. Now those tanks are empty, right? Yeah, so if we can go ahead and drop this. Go away. I don't want you. And now we've still got the monoprop that remains in the pod itself to power the engines. That's what we're going to use to slow down instead of a drogue chute. You can actually use these engines to land without parachutes at all. It does work, I've done it. But you have to time your landing just right, because you don't have a whole lot of margin. Okay, back through subsonic. Let's open the bay. That'll be our deceleration. Now our parachutes are deployed. Let's smash that heat shield like we do every time. Yeah, take that heat shield. Nice payoff from that. So Val and Jeb are both level 2 now. We've got 1,200 science to spend and 4 million spaceos. We could probably upgrade pretty much everything left at this point. Contract complete. So why don't we call it an episode here? I haven't really put much thought into what we're going to do next from here. We do still have a couple of contracts that we haven't completed here. I'm really not sure why this one isn't counting up, because we did deploy one of those. Maybe I'll take a look at that between episodes and see what I can figure out. But I know that sooner or later, we're going to start doing unmanned interplanetary missions, so maybe that'll be next, maybe not. Until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Wait, we're not done quite yet. You know what we almost forgot? We forgot the solar science probe, and it's only 4 hours away from escaping Kerbin SOI, so let's just time warp that out. Spadoop. And then what was your story? Orbit the sun. Oh, first of all, let's stop time warping. I think I may need to have that as my active vessel to make it complete the contract. There we go. World's first. Gathered the first scientific data from the sun. Contract complete. That's another 264,000 spaceos to our accounts. And you, my man, are just going to sit out here, and you should turn that on. You should run that. Why aren't you running that? As I was about to say, you're going to sit out here and run this magnetometer report over the next 6 days and get us another 12 science. You too. Wait a minute. Turn on all your science. Okay, it's going to get us a fair amount of science still. Alright, with that, for real, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.